The story of human evolution is a tale that stretches back far beyond the familiar savannas of Africa. It begins in a world shrouded in mist and mystery, where ancient forests blanketed the land, and the air was thick with the calls of distant creatures. To truly understand our origins, we must journey back 13 million years, to the verdant forests of what is now Spain. Here, the dense canopy formed a living roof above a world teeming with life, and it was within this environment that the first chapters of our evolutionary journey were written. Among the ancient trees lived Australopithecus, an extraordinary ape whose legacy would echo through the ages. This creature was not just another inhabitant of the forest, but a pivotal ancestor to all the great apes, including the lineage that would one day lead to Homo Sapiens. The world of Australopithecus was a vertical one, dominated by towering trees and a labyrinth of branches. Life here demanded agility, strength, and a keen awareness of the ever-changing environment. These early hominids were masters of the treetops, moving with grace through the upper canopy. Their diet was rich in fruit, which provided the energy needed for their active, arboreal lives. Yet, the forest was not without its dangers. The weight of these primates made traversing slender branches a risky endeavor. To adapt, they developed a unique method of locomotion, hanging and swinging from the sturdier limbs below, a precursor to the brachiation seen in modern apes. It was here, suspended between earth and sky, that the first experiments in upright posture began. Balancing on large branches, these ancestors practiced standing upright, laying the groundwork for the bipedalism that would later define the human lineage. Social bonds were crucial in this environment. Early hominids lived in groups, relying on cooperation and shared knowledge to survive. Their ability to communicate, share food, and comfort one another marked the beginnings of a complex social structure. These early communities were built on empathy and mutual support. The capacity to sense and respond to the emotions of others fostered a deeper social consciousness, setting the stage for the intricate societies that would emerge millions of years later. One of the most significant innovations of Australopithecus was the construction of treetop nests. By weaving branches and leaves, these primates created safe platforms high above the forest floor, offering protection from nocturnal predators. These nests not only provided safety, but also allowed for long, restorative sleep. Deep rest was essential for memory consolidation and cognitive development, giving these early hominids a crucial advantage. The simple act of building a bed in the trees was a pivotal step in the evolutionary journey. It sharpened minds, fostered social bonds, and laid the foundation for the remarkable cognitive abilities that would define the hominid lineage. In these ancient forests, the first sparks of intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability were kindled. The journey from ape to human had begun, shaped by the challenges and wonders of a world lost to time, but forever imprinted in the story of our species. The social structure of Australopithecus was intricate and held a surprising balance of power. While a dominant male often led the group, the social dynamics were complex and multifaceted. The group formed a stable core of knowledge and tradition, passed down through generations. Adolescent males, upon reaching maturity, were compelled to leave their families behind and seek out a new group to join. This practice, though seemingly harsh, was incredibly important. It acted as a vital mechanism for spreading new ideas and discoveries from one community to another, weaving a web of shared culture across the forest. This transmission of knowledge formed the very first culture our planet had ever seen. It was a culture passed down not through books or writing, but through observation and imitation from one generation to the next. Youngsters learned from their elders which plants were safe to eat and which were poisonous, a life or death lesson in this abundant yet perilous world. They even developed a basic understanding of herbal medicine, using specific leaves and roots to soothe ailments and cure sickness. This was more than just survival. It was the beginning of a collective wisdom, a shared understanding of the world that bound them together as a people. Their ingenuity was not limited to medicine or food. Australopithecus were among the first tool users. They learned to wield simple sticks to accomplish tasks that were impossible with their bare hands. One of their cleverest inventions was using a thin twig to fish for termites, carefully inserting it into a nest and pulling out a protein-rich meal. This seemingly small act represents a monumental leap in thinking, the ability to see an object not just for what it is, but for what it could become. It was the dawn of technology, the first instance of shaping the natural world to serve a specific purpose, a skill that would come to define the human journey. Even the way they managed conflict was advanced. In a world where disagreements could easily lead to violence, they developed a remarkable social tool: laughter. A shared vocal expression of amusement could diffuse tension, reaffirm social bonds, and resolve disputes without resorting to aggression. When a new male attempted to join a group, he was often met with suspicion from the alpha. This complex social dynamic reveals a society built not just on strength, but on diplomacy and cooperation. As early humans evolved, they began to develop rudimentary forms of language, a crucial step in the dawn of culture. These early forms of communication allowed them to share knowledge, coordinate activities, and strengthen social bonds. The development of tools became more sophisticated, with early humans crafting objects from stone, bone, and wood to aid in hunting, building, and daily tasks. They learned to build shelters and harness the power of fire, providing warmth, protection, and a means to cook food. Artistic expression also emerged, with early humans painting on cave walls, creating symbols and images that conveyed stories, beliefs, and experiences. These advancements in tools, language, and social structures marked the dawn of culture, setting the stage for the complex societies that would follow. The journey from apes to Homo sapiens was not just a biological evolution, but a cultural one, as early humans laid the foundations for the rich tapestry of human civilization. For millions of years, the world of our ape ancestors was stable, a predictable cycle of seasons in the great forests of Europe. Life revolved around the rhythm of the trees, the abundance of fruit, and the safety of the dense canopy. But the Earth is a dynamic and ever-changing planet. Even the most ancient forests could not escape the forces that shape continents and climates. Tectonic forces, deep within the planet's crust, were slowly at work, reshaping continents and oceans. A monumental geological event began to unfold. Africa was inching ever closer to Europe, gradually closing the body of water that separated them. This slow-motion collision eventually sealed the Strait of Gibraltar, transforming the Mediterranean from a vast sea into a series of shrinking hypersaline lakes. The world was about to change dramatically. The drying of the Mediterranean Sea had a profound impact on the climate. Rainfall patterns shifted, and the once lush forests began to shrink. The humid tropical forests that had sustained Australopithecus for so long began to wither and retreat. The endless canopies started to break apart, replaced by a drier, more open landscape. The world was becoming unfamiliar and unpredictable. The abundant fruit that had been their dietary staple became scarcer, and the very environment that had shaped their existence was disappearing before their eyes. For a species so perfectly adapted to a specific way of life, this was a catastrophe. They faced a stark choice: adapt or perish. Their survival depended on their ability to find a new home. The search for food and water became a daily struggle, pushing them to the edge of their endurance. Faced with this environmental crisis, our ancestors embarked on a journey of immense significance. The migration was not a single event, but a series of movements, each step fraught with uncertainty. Guided by instinct and the pressing need for survival, they began to migrate. The journey was long and perilous, stretching across barren plains and through unfamiliar territories. They moved south, crossing the newly formed land bridge where the Mediterranean Sea once lay. The ground beneath their feet was harsh and unforgiving, a stark contrast to the forests they had left behind. They were leaving the only world they had ever known, venturing out from the familiar forests of Europe into the vast unknown continent of Africa. This was not a simple relocation. It was a desperate exodus, a monumental trek driven by the collapse of their world. Each day brought new dangers, predators, lack of shelter, and the constant search for food. Yet, with every sunrise they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding a place where life could begin anew. The journey tested every skill and instinct they possessed. This migration was a filter, a severe test of resilience and adaptability. Only those who could endure the hardships and learn from the changing world would survive. The journey demanded cooperation and ingenuity. Individuals worked together to find food, share shelter, and protect one another from threats. Bonds of trust and loyalty grew stronger with every challenge faced. They carried with them the legacy of Australopithecus, their social bonds, their capacity for empathy, their rudimentary tool use, and the knowledge accumulated over countless generations. These traits became vital for survival in the new and unpredictable environments. As they settled into the diverse landscapes of Africa, adaptation became the key to survival. Some learned to hunt, others to scavenge, and all had to master the art of finding water and shelter in a land that was both rich and perilous. They had left their old home behind, but they were about to become the ancestors of a new kind of being. The journey had changed them, forging a resilience and adaptability that would echo through the ages, shaping the destiny of all who would follow. Fast forward 6 million years. We are now in Central Africa, on the shores of a vast, shrinking body of water known as Lake Chad. The world has continued to change, and so have our ancestors. Here, around 7 million years ago, we meet a new hominin, Sahelanthropus. The story of Sahelanthropus begins with a remarkable discovery in 2001, when a team of paleontologists unearthed a single, precious skull in the Jurab Desert of Chad. This fossil, nicknamed Tumai, would become one of the most significant finds in the study of human origins. The skull, with its blend of primitive and advanced features, challenged everything we thought we knew about the earliest members of our lineage. Sahelanthropus is thought to be the last common ancestor we share with our closest living relatives, the chimpanzees. The skull of Sahelanthropus displays a small brain case, similar in size to that of a chimpanzee, but with a surprisingly flat face and prominent brow ridges, traits more commonly associated with later hominins. These features suggest that Sahelanthropus occupied a unique position at the crossroads of ape and human evolution. Sahelanthropus was a creature of two worlds, still tied to the safety of the trees but increasingly drawn to the opportunities on the ground. While they still sought refuge in the treetops at night, building nests just as their ancestors had, their days were spent differently. The landscape around Lake Chad was a mosaic of woodland and grassland, offering a much more varied diet than the forests of old. Sahelanthropus spent a great deal of time on the ground, foraging for roots, insects, and other foods that were unavailable in the canopy. This shift from a purely arboreal life was a major step. It required new skills and a greater awareness of the dangers that lurked on the open ground, but the rewards of a richer, more diverse diet were well worth the risk. This more complex lifestyle demanded more complex tools. Sahelanthropus did not just use a single type of implement. They developed a small toolkit, using different objects for different tasks. They might use a sturdy stick to dig for edible roots and a more delicate twig to extract insects. This meant that the young had to spend more time with their elders, carefully observing and practicing these essential skills. This extended period of learning and dependency helped to strengthen family bonds and ensured that the group's collective knowledge was passed on more effectively from one generation to the next, enriching their culture. Crucially, Sahelanthropus walked on two legs with greater proficiency than any of their predecessors. While they were still adept climbers, their anatomy shows clear adaptations for bipedalism. The position of the foramen magnum, The hole in the base of the skull suggests an upright posture, a key step toward the human form. Walking upright was a transformative ability. It freed their hands, allowing them to carry food, tools, and even their young over long distances. They could now transport valuable resources from one place to another, sharing them with the group back at a home base. This simple act of carrying things was a profound change, fostering cooperation and laying the groundwork for a more organized and interdependent social life. Sahelanthropus, with its mosaic of ancient and modern traits, stands as a pivotal figure in our evolutionary story. Its discovery has reshaped our understanding of what it means to be human, and its legacy continues to echo through every step we take today. The shift to a more terrestrial life brought about fundamental changes in the social dynamics and survival strategies of our ancestors. As they left the safety of the trees, early hominids had to adapt to new dangers and opportunities on the open plains. Foraging became a coordinated effort, with individuals working together to locate and secure food while remaining vigilant for predators. Among Sahelanthropus, a more male-dominated hierarchy started to emerge, with leadership and status often determined by displays of strength and confidence. Physical prowess and the ability to form strategic alliances became crucial for survival. Individuals who could assert dominance or build coalitions gained access to the best resources and protection. This was the dawn of a kind of politics, a world of intricate social maneuvering, where individuals formed coalitions, plotted against rivals, and vied for power. The social landscape was becoming as complex and challenging as the physical one, with new rules emerging for cooperation, competition, and leadership. This new social tension also had a darker side. For the first time in our lineage, we see evidence of organized, premeditated violence against their own kind. The competition for resources, prime territory, access to food, and safe shelter could escalate into deadly conflict. Groups would raid one another, engaging in what we can only describe as the very first wars. This invention of organized killing marks a sobering moment in our history. The same intelligence that allowed for cooperation and tool use could also be turned to brutal and calculated violence, a duality that has remained with humanity ever since. Yet, alongside this new capacity for conflict, new forms of connection were also blossoming. Grooming and close social bonds helped maintain group cohesion and reduce tension. Social interactions became more complex and intimate, with individuals developing new ways to communicate and reinforce alliances. Sahelanthropus is thought to be the first of our ancestors to engage in face-to-face copulation, a behavior that fosters a greater sense of personal connection and emotional bonding. Beyond the simple act of reproduction, individuals began to form preferential bonds, choosing companions for mutual support and protection. These were not yet lifelong partnerships, but the formation of pairs who would spend significant time together, grooming, foraging, and supporting one another. It was the first glimmer of the powerful pair bonds that would later become central to human society. Perhaps most profoundly, Sahelanthropus began to grapple with the concept of mortality. When a member of the group died, it was no longer an unobserved event. The other individuals would gather around the body, showing signs of what we might interpret as grief or contemplation. They would touch the deceased, remain silent, and stay near the body for a time before moving on. These were the very first death rituals, simple and fleeting, but deeply significant. It showed a dawning awareness of life and its finality, a spark of the abstract thought that would eventually lead to spirituality, religion, and the profound human quest to understand our own existence. As survival on the savannah demanded new strategies, early humans developed innovative techniques, using sticks and stones to dig for roots, building simple shelters for protection, and establishing lookout positions to warn of approaching danger. Communication became more sophisticated, with individuals using vocalizations, gestures, and even facial expressions to coordinate group movement. share information about food sources, and alert others to threats. New social rules emerged around territory and resource sharing. Groups established boundaries, defended their perimeters, and developed unwritten codes for resolving disputes and maintaining order. Cooperation was essential for survival. Individuals took turns standing guard, shared food with allies, and worked together to accomplish tasks that would have been impossible alone. Learning and teaching became vital. Younger members observed and imitated the skilled actions of experienced individuals, passing down knowledge that would shape the future of the species. Let us journey forward again, another 5 million years into the past. We arrive in South Africa around 2 million years ago, a land shaped by relentless change and adversity. The climate has grown harsher, more arid, with the sun beating down on a landscape that tests the limits of survival. The great forests that once blanketed this region are now a distant memory, replaced by a dry, challenging expanse of scattered trees and open grassland. It is here that we encounter Australopithecus Sediba, a remarkable species standing at the crossroads of evolution, caught between the world of their arboreal ancestors and the demands of the open plains. These hominins still relied on the safety of trees, scrambling into their branches to escape the ever-present threat of predators such as the saber-toothed cat. The ground below was both a place of opportunity and a domain of immense danger, where every step could mean life or death. The changing climate made survival a daily struggle, as water sources dwindled and the land grew ever more unforgiving. The soft fruits and tender leaves that had once sustained their ancestors were now scarce, forcing Sediba to adapt or perish. The environment offered little more than tough fibrous roots and hardy underground bulbs, demanding ingenuity and persistence. Each day was a relentless search for these meager rations, digging into the hard-baked earth for a small reward that barely staved off hunger. Life was precarious, and food was always in short supply. The social structure of Australopithecus Sediba reflected the constant hardship, with individuals banding together for mutual protection and support. The strongest males would form and protect groups, ensuring their own genetic legacy by providing protection and what little food they could find. It was a tough existence in a tough world, where every day was a test of endurance and adaptability. Yet, in the midst of adversity, a revolutionary idea began to take root. This idea was born of desperation and courage, a testament to the ingenuity of our ancestors. On the plains, large predators would hunt and kill big herbivores, feasting on their kills, but often leaving behind significant portions of the carcass. A few daring individuals realized that these leftovers represented an incredible opportunity. They began to practice scavenging, a dangerous but rewarding strategy that required patience, vigilance, and boldness. Waiting for the predators to leave, they would rush in to steal scraps of meat, and most importantly, the fatty marrow locked inside the bones. This was a pivotal moment in our evolutionary journey, marking a radical shift in diet and survival strategy. This new source of food was a game changer, providing vital nutrients that had been missing from their diet. Meat and fat are incredibly rich in calories and protein, far more than any plant food available in their environment. These foods are also easier to digest, allowing for more efficient use of energy. With less energy needed for digestion, more could be devoted to another, more power-hungry organ, the brain. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this high-quality diet fueled a remarkable transformation in our ancestors. The brains of Australopithecus Sediba and their descendants began to grow larger and more complex, paving the way for advanced thinking and problem-solving. Their bodies also changed, becoming taller and slimmer, better adapted for efficient movement across the open landscape. The path to becoming human was being paved with protein, and the trials of Australopithecus Sediba marked a crucial chapter in the story of our evolution. The act of scavenging required more than just courage. It demanded ingenuity and the birth of new technology. Tearing through the thick hide of a wildebeest or cracking open a femur bone was impossible with bare hands and weak ape-like teeth. To access this vital new food source, early hominids such as Australopithecus sediba made an intellectual leap that would alter the course of evolution forever. They invented the first stone tools, simple yet revolutionary. By striking one rock against another with precision, they learned to flake off razor-sharp shards, creating tools that could cut, scrape, and break. These choppers and flakes became the keys that unlocked the riches of the carcass, allowing them to butcher meat and break bones with unprecedented efficiency. This new technology was not just a practical tool. It was a catalyst for cognitive development, sparking a chain reaction of mental advancement. The process of making a stone tool was far from simple. It required forethought, planning, and a clear mental image of the desired outcome, skills that marked a profound leap in cognitive ability. The right kind of rock had to be chosen, the correct angles understood, and the action executed with precision. This complex sequence of actions stimulated new neural pathways in the brain, forging connections that would support even greater feats of intelligence. The skill of tool-making had to be taught and learned, demanding closer communication and cooperation within the group. The act of creation was literally making them smarter, each new tool a testament to their growing intellect. With sharper minds and better tools, another monumental development began to emerge, the birth of articulate language. Their vocalizations started to become more than just calls of alarm or greeting. They began to combine sounds in new ways, conveying more complex ideas and intentions. This fledgling language allowed them to conceive of projects together, to plan scavenging expeditions, to describe locations, and to persuade others to join them. The ability to share thoughts and coordinate actions gave them a powerful advantage, transforming a group of individuals into a truly collaborative team, capable of achieving what no single member could alone. This combination of a richer diet, superior tools, and emerging language set the stage for a courageous choice. While many of their kind, like the famous Lucy, belonged to a lineage that clung to the safety of the trees and eventually died out, a different group made a fateful decision. Perhaps they were the weaker ones, the outcasts, but they were guided by something new, imagination. They could envision a different future, a better life away from the familiar groves. They made the bold leap to leave the trees behind for good, to commit fully to the open savanna. This act of incredible bravery was the definitive step away from our ape past and onto the long road toward becoming human, an evolutionary journey marked by bold leaps in technology, cognition, and imagination. The descendants of those brave pioneers evolved into a new and astonishingly successful species, Homo erectus. Appearing around 2 million years ago, they were the first of our ancestors to truly resemble us. They were tall, with long legs, and a body built not for climbing but for walking and running. Homo erectus was the great explorer, the first hominin to leave Africa and populate vast swathes of the globe. As the Sahara Desert expanded, they followed the great herds of herbivores, migrating out of their ancestral homeland and venturing into Asia and Europe. They were driven by curiosity and an unparalleled capacity for endurance. Their anatomy was a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, perfectly adapted for persistence hunting. Unlike a cheetah, which relies on a short burst of speed, Homo erectus would hunt by relentlessly chasing its prey over many miles. They were covered in sweat glands, a fantastic cooling system that allowed them to run in the midday sun, while their fur-covered prey would overheat and collapse from exhaustion. This ability to outlast even the swiftest animals made them formidable big-game hunters, securing a reliable supply of meat and fat that continued to fuel their growing brains and bodies. Their entire biology was built for stamina. Homo erectus did not just adapt to the environment, they began to change it. They built the first true shelters, creating camps that served as a home base. These were complex sites, sometimes even protected by rudimentary fences, where the community would gather. Here we see the beginnings of a true division of labor. Some individuals would specialize in making the elegant, symmetrical hand axes that were the hallmark of their technology. Others would be responsible for butchering the day's hunt, while others still would tan the hides for warmth and shelter. This organization created stronger, more efficient, and more resilient communities. The most transformative discovery made by Homo erectus was the mastery of fire. At first, they may have captured it from natural sources like lightning strikes. Eventually, they learned to create and control it themselves. Fire was a revolution. It provided warmth on cold nights, kept dangerous predators at bay, and became the social heart of the camp. But its greatest gift was cooking. Cooked food is vastly easier to digest, requiring 16 times less energy than raw food. This massive energy surplus was redirected straight to the brain, accelerating its growth and enabling higher-level thought, complex emotions, and even the first sense of aesthetics. The mastery of fire marked a pivotal moment in human evolution, setting the stage for the development of more advanced technologies and social structures. Homo erectus, with their ingenuity and adaptability, laid the groundwork for the future of humanity. The great migrations of Homo erectus spread them far and wide across the Old World. These early travelers, moving in bands across vast savannas and forests, set the stage for the incredible diversity that would soon emerge within the human lineage. Over hundreds of thousands of years, isolated populations of these early humans began to adapt to their unique local environments. Each group, separated by mountains, deserts, and oceans, faced different challenges, climate, predators, and resources that would shape their bodies and minds. This geographic separation led to genetic divergence, causing the human family tree to branch out in remarkable ways. Each branch represented a new experiment in survival, a different answer to the question of what it meant to be human. In the cold, harsh landscapes of Ice Age Europe, one group evolved into the Neanderthals. These robust and powerful men, with lighter skin and eyes, were built to withstand the freezing temperatures and the challenges of a glacial world. Their bodies were stocky and strong, their faces broad, and their tools finely crafted for hunting large game. In Asia, other groups emerged, such as the Denisovans, who adapted to the high mountains and deep forests of Siberia and beyond. Their legacy, though mysterious, can still be traced in the genes of some modern populations. On the Indonesian island of Flores, a population even evolved into a tiny, 1-meter-tall species nicknamed the Hobbit. These small men, with their unique stature and tools, thrived in isolation for thousands of years. Our world was once home to many different kinds of humans. Each group, with its own strengths and adaptations, carved out a place in the ancient world. Back in the African homeland, the cradle of our origins, another group continued to evolve. Here, the pressures of the savanna, the forests, and the rivers shaped a new kind of human. Shaped by the specific challenges of the African continent, these men developed into a new species, Homo sapiens. That is us, lighter boned than our Neanderthal cousins, with a high, rounded skull to house a uniquely structured brain. Homo sapiens were built for endurance, adaptability, and innovation. Our skulls were different, higher, rounder, and better suited to complex thought. Our faces were less pronounced, our bodies more agile, and our minds capable of abstract reasoning and planning. For a long time, Homo sapiens shared the planet with these other human species, sometimes living side by side, sometimes competing for the same resources. Occasionally, these groups intermingled and shared genes, leaving traces of Neanderthal and Denisovan ancestry in the DNA of many men today. This genetic legacy is still written in the DNA of modern people, a testament to the complex web of relationships that once existed among ancient men. The world was a far more diverse human place than it is now, with many different species of men coexisting, competing, and sometimes collaborating. Then, around 100,000 years ago, something remarkable happened. A new chapter began in the story of our species. A small population of Homo sapiens began to expand out of Africa, embarking on a journey that would change the fate of the world. This was the final great migration that would define the future of the planet. These men, driven by curiosity and necessity, ventured into unknown lands. Our ancestors were master navigators and innovators, crafting tools, building rafts, and planning their journeys with remarkable foresight. They possessed a sophisticated symbolic culture, complex language, and the ability to communicate ideas across generations. Their unparalleled ability to cooperate and plan allowed them to overcome obstacles that would have defeated lesser men. They spread rapidly across the globe, crossing seas on primitive rafts to reach Australia, demonstrating courage and ingenuity. Eventually, they trekked across the frozen land bridge into the Americas, braving the cold and unknown. No corner of the earth was beyond their reach. From the highest mountains to the deepest forests, men made every land their own. As Homo sapiens spread, the other human species vanished. The Neanderthals, Denisovans, and hobbits disappeared, leaving only us behind. Why we survived while they disappeared is a question that still fascinates scientists. Was it our technology, our social bonds, or something else? Perhaps our more advanced technology, more complex social networks, or greater adaptability gave us a competitive edge. Men adapted to new environments, used different resources, and hunted and gathered with unmatched skill. Whatever the reason, by about 30,000 years ago, we were the last humans left standing. The world belonged to Homo sapiens alone. Every single person alive on Earth today, from the mountains of Tibet to the Amazon rainforest, is a descendant of that small group of Homo sapiens who walked out of Africa. The legacy of those ancient men lives on in all of us. Our story is one of incredible endurance, of men who faced the unknown and survived against all odds. It is a 13-million-year journey from a forest ape to a global species, a tale of adaptation, innovation, and survival. All of us share in that same ancient and wonderful heritage, a brotherhood that stretches back to the dawn of humanity. The story of men is inseparable from one of the most profound changes in our evolutionary history, the rise of bipedalism. Walking upright on two legs set our ancestors apart from all other creatures and shaped the destiny of the human lineage. Millions of years ago, in the shifting landscapes of Africa, early men began to venture out of the dense forests and onto the open savannas. This new world demanded new solutions to age-old challenges. The first steps towards bipedalism were tentative, awkward, uncertain, and slow, yet with each generation the bodies of these men changed in subtle but crucial ways. The spine shifted, curving gently to balance the head above the shoulders. The pelvis became shorter and broader, stabilizing the trunk and freeing the hands. The legs grew longer and stronger, while the feet developed arches for shock absorption and forward propulsion. These anatomical changes, visible in the fossilized bones of ancient men, mark the transition from life in the trees to life on the ground. But why walk on two legs? The benefits were many. Bipedalism allowed men to travel long distances across open terrain in search of food and water. Standing tall gave a better vantage point to spot predators and prey. Free hands meant tools could be carried, weapons could be wielded, and resources could be gathered and transported with ease. This new way of moving changed everything. Men could follow migrating herds, scavenge from carcasses, and eventually hunt with unmatched efficiency. Energy was conserved and heat was managed better under the hot African sun. The ability to walk upright freed the mind as well, paving the way for the invention of new tools, new strategies, and new ways of surviving. Bipedalism was not just a physical adaptation, it was a revolution that set the stage for all the triumphs and challenges to follow. From the earliest Australopithecus to the modern Homo sapiens, every step forward was built on the foundation of walking upright. The journey of men, from timid forest dweller to master of continents, began with the simple act of standing tall. it is a legacy carved into our bones, a testament to the power of adaptation and the relentless drive to survive. As men walked upright across the ancient plains, another quiet transformation began, one that would forever shape the course of human history, the dawn of tool-making. It began with simple stones, chipped and shaped by careful hands. The first tools, known as oldowan, were little more than flakes struck from river pebbles, yet their impact was profound. With these sharp-edged stones, men could cut meat from bones, crack open marrow, and defend themselves against larger predators. Over time, these tools grew more sophisticated. Acheulean hand axes appeared, tear-shaped, symmetrical, and crafted with deliberate skill. These versatile implements could butcher animals, dig for roots, and shape wood, opening up new possibilities for survival. Each generation of men learned from the last, passing down knowledge of how to select the right stone, where to strike, and how to sharpen an edge. The landscape became a workshop, littered with the evidence of ingenuity and adaptation. Stone tools were more than just objects. They were extensions of the mind. They allowed men to experiment, to plan, and to anticipate the future. The act of tool-making fostered new neural connections, driving the evolution of larger, more complex brains. Communication became more nuanced as men demonstrated techniques and shared discoveries. Through the mastery of stone, men gained access to new foods, expanding their diet and fueling further growth. They shaped their world, literally, with every blow of the hammerstone. The development of tools was not merely a leap in technology, but a turning point in evolution. It was here, among the scattered rocks and silent echoes of ancient workshops, that men truly began to mold their destiny. From the simplest flake to the finely crafted hand axe, the story of early stone tools is a testament to human ingenuity. It marks the beginning of problem-solving, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of progress. A legacy carried forward with every tool, every invention, and every new chapter in the journey of men. As the Stone Age dawned, another revolution unfolded, not in the hands, but in the hearts and minds of early men. Survival on the open plains demanded more than sharp tools. It called for unity, coordination, and trust. The solitary hunter became part of something greater, the group. With growing intelligence and communication, men discovered the power of working together. They formed hunting parties, each member playing a crucial role. Some drove herds toward hidden ambushes, while others waited in silence, ready to strike. Through gestures, calls, and shared glances, strategies were born and refined. Group hunting transformed the hunt into a carefully choreographed dance. It allowed men to pursue larger prey, animals that would have been impossible to tackle alone. Success meant more than just food. It meant safety, shared knowledge, and stronger bonds. Around the campfire, stories of the hunt were told, tactics discussed, and lessons learned. Each victory was a testament to cooperation and planning. In this new world, the group became a lifeline. Members protected each other from predators, cared for the injured, and ensured that no one was left behind. The seeds of empathy and loyalty took root, forging connections that would define our species. The birth of social cooperation marked a pivotal moment in human evolution. It was here, in the shared pursuit of survival, that men learned the true strength of unity, a force as powerful as any tool and a legacy that endures to this day. From the heart of Africa, a new chapter began, a journey that would shape the destiny of mankind. Driven by curiosity, necessity, and the constant search for sustenance, early men set their sights beyond familiar horizons. They ventured northward, following river valleys and crossing arid landscapes under vast, endless skies. Some traveled along the lush corridors of the Nile, while others braved the harsh expanse of the Sahara, pressing onward with unwavering resolve. As these pioneers reached the shores of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, new challenges awaited: dense forests, towering mountains, and freezing tundras tested their endurance and ingenuity. Each obstacle demanded adaptation. In the cold, they learned to fashion warmer clothing from animal hides. In the forests, they tracked new prey and discovered unfamiliar plants. On windswept plains, they built sturdier shelters to withstand the elements. With each step, the world grew larger, and so did the men's understanding of it. They crossed into Europe and Asia, spreading across continents, leaving behind trails of footprints and stone tools. Their roots branched out like the veins of a living map, connecting distant lands and forging the first global network of humanity. The migration out of Africa was more than a movement of bodies. It was a test of resilience, adaptability, and the will to survive. Facing new predators, unfamiliar diseases, and climates that shifted from scorching heat to icy cold, these early men relied on their resourcefulness and the lessons carried with them from their ancestral home. This great journey transformed not only their bodies as they adapted to diverse environments, but also their minds. Each new land brought new experiences, new challenges, and new opportunities for growth. Across continents and through millennia, the spirit of exploration endured, fueling the endless quest to discover what lay beyond the next horizon. As the first humans spread across continents, survival depended on more than strength or sharp tools. It hinged on the power to share ideas. In the silence of ancient forests and the echoing chambers of rocky shelters, a new force emerged: communication. From simple gestures and expressive grunts, early men began to craft a system of sounds and signals, proto-language, that would bridge minds and shape destinies. Through urgent calls, they warned of lurking predators. With subtle hand signs, they coordinated the hunt. Over time, these primitive exchanges evolved into complex patterns, rhythms of meaning that could be passed from one generation to the next. Around the flickering light of the fire, stories were shared, tales of distant lands, lessons learned from bitter mistakes, and the secrets of tracking prey across shifting landscapes. This new language, though unrefined, became a lifeline. It united groups, allowed for the sharing of vital knowledge, and fostered cooperation on a scale never before seen. Strategies could be planned, dangers anticipated, and resources managed with newfound efficiency. The ability to communicate transformed isolated individuals into cohesive bands, stronger together and better equipped to face the challenges of an untamed world. With words, grunts, and gestures, early men carved out their place in a world full of uncertainty. The dawn of communication marked a turning point, a silent revolution that would echo through the ages, laying the foundation for everything to come. As the Ice Age tightened its grip on Europe and Western Asia, a new kind of human emerged from the cold and the darkness: Neanderthals. Stocky, resilient, and powerfully built, these early men forged a life in some of the planet's harshest environments. Their days were shaped by the rhythm of the hunt and the challenges of survival, yet beneath their rugged exterior lay a mind capable of remarkable ingenuity. Neanderthals crafted sophisticated tools from stone and bone, carefully shaped spearheads, scrapers, and blades that spoke of a deep understanding of their world. In the shadowy depths of caves, they left behind mysterious symbols and ochre markings, hinting at a capacity for abstract thought and perhaps even ritual. Around roaring fires, Neanderthal bands shared knowledge, honed their hunting tactics, and braved the relentless cold together. They built sturdy shelters from mammoth bones and animal hides, adapting to each new threat the Ice Age brought. Evidence of their compassion endures in the care they gave to their injured and elderly, fostering a sense of community that set them apart from the beasts they hunted. But the world was changing. Into their territory came a new rival, early Homo Sapiens. The two species eyed each other across the icy plains, sometimes competing for resources, sometimes exchanging tools, and at times ideas. In this crucible of contact, technology and culture leapt forward. Though the Neanderthals would eventually vanish, their legacy endures, in genes, in artifacts, and in the echoes of shared campfires. They were not just survivors, but innovators, shaping the frozen world and leaving indelible marks on the story of humanity. While Neanderthals roamed the icy expanses of the north, another enigmatic branch of humanity was quietly shaping the story of our species. Deep within the shadowy caves of Siberia's Denisova cave, archaeologists uncovered an unexpected clue. A fragment of bone, a solitary tooth, and the faintest traces of a lost people, the Denisovans. Almost nothing remains of their physical form, yet their genetic imprint is unmistakable. Through advanced DNA analysis, scientists revealed that Denisovans were a distinct group, closely related to Neanderthals but with their own unique traits. Though few tools or artifacts survive, their legacy is written in the genetic code of millions alive today. As modern humans journeyed out of Africa and into Asia, they encountered the Denisovans. From these ancient meetings came a lasting genetic exchange, one that endures in the peoples of East Asia, Oceania, and beyond. Traits that help some populations thrive at high altitudes, resist certain diseases, or adapt to cold environments are silent gifts from these ancient relatives. The Denisovans left no great monuments, no painted caves, and few clues to their daily lives. Yet in the tapestry of humanity, their thread is strong and enduring. They are the hidden giants of our past, silent architects of the human genome, whose influence reaches across continents and millennia, woven deeply into the fabric of who we are. As the last echoes of ancient giants faded, a new spark ignited in the minds of early humans. Across windswept plains and shadowed caves, a profound transformation began, one that would forever separate us from our ancestors. This was the dawn of symbolic thought. In darkness lit only by flickering firelight, hands pressed ochre and charcoal to stone. Simple marks became animal shapes, lines formed meaning, and the world itself became a canvas. From the walls of Lascaux to the hidden chambers of Chauvet, early humans painted visions of the hunt, the spirit and the unknown, carved figurines and etched stones, hinted at a world beyond mere survival, a realm where ideas and beliefs took form. These creations were more than art. They were the first whispers of spirituality, cave paintings believed to summon luck, carved totems fashioned to ward off danger, and enigmatic symbols etched into bone and ivory. Through these acts, humans reached beyond the physical, seeking to understand the mysteries of life, death, and the universe. The awakening of the mind marked a turning point in our story. It was here, in the silent glow of ancient fires, that imagination took flight, and the journey toward meaning truly began. As the first embers of civilization glowed, humanity's bond with the animal world shifted in a profound new direction. The wild herds that once thundered across grassy plains became more than prey. They became partners. In the quiet dawns, patient hands tamed the first wolves, transforming them into loyal companions and guardians. Goats and sheep, once elusive, were gathered and bred, their wool and milk fueling new ways of life. With the domestication of animals, communities flourished. Cattle ploughed fields, oxen hauled heavy loads, and horses carried people across great distances. This newfound partnership meant steady food, reliable labor, and greater mobility. Villages grew into towns, and trade routes stretched farther than ever before. The domestication of animals was not just a leap in survival, it was a leap in possibility. Herds grazing beyond the horizon, dogs watching over sleeping fires, and the steady rhythm of hooves. These became the heartbeat of early societies. Through cooperation with the animal kingdom, humanity took another step forward, shaping the world and its own destiny in ways never before imagined. From scattered camps beneath the open sky, humanity's journey now turned to the fertile earth. The wild grains once gathered by chance became the seeds of a new era. With patient observation, early people learned to sow, tend, and reap, transforming uncertain harvests into dependable abundance. Wheat, barley, and rice, These simple crops would forever alter the fate of humankind. No longer did survival demand constant wandering. Communities settled, building homes of mud and stone near their fields. The rhythm of life shifted with the seasons, planting, growing, harvesting and storing. Food surpluses fueled population growth, and villages swelled into thriving towns. For the first time, people could plan for the future, storing grain to outlast lean times and trading excess for goods from afar. The shift from hunter-gatherer to farmer was not without cost. New challenges arose: disease, crop failure, and conflict over land. Yet the rewards were undeniable: greater security, innovation, and the birth of complex societies. Tools evolved, from digging sticks to polished ploughs. Fields stretched to the horizon, a patchwork of green and gold, as humanity's relationship with nature was forever transformed. With agriculture, people began to shape the land, and the land in turn shaped them. The agricultural revolution was not just a change in how people lived. It was a turning point in what it meant to be human, setting the stage for the rise of civilization itself.